I think that this is the video that I'm most excited for because if you know me, you know that I am a huge bookworm. I love reading. I say that, I'm really struggling to read this year. I'm in the biggest reading slump at the moment. As I'm recording this, it's mid-January and I am like halfway through reading my first book of the year, which I'm not happy about. I'm just really struggling to find like the motivation to read. However, if you're in the same boat as me, I have some books I'm going to talk you through, which are my favourite reads of all time. If you're in a reading slump, these are guaranteed to get you out of it. One of my favourite things to do is just talk about the books that I love so much. So I am very excited to talk about these. If you're new around here, then hi, welcome, I'm Mads. Thank you so much for joining us. On this channel, I basically talk about life in my 20s. I'm going to start posting more book content. So if you enjoy book related content, then make sure to subscribe. I'm also just really loving doing these sort of videos where I'm just holding a mic and talking to the camera. I do want to do more vlog style videos, but I'm really loving this for now. Okay, so I'm going to jump into this video by talking about my favourite book of all time. I actually have to shuffle over because I'm going to need to put a photo on the screen. This book isn't actually out yet. It's coming out in April 2025. I am so grateful to have received an advance copy of this book. I love the author. Every single book that I've read of hers, I have absolutely loved. I've devoured it. But this book just felt a little bit different. This is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I think something that I really love about Abby's writing is everything always feels really authentic and really raw. The emotions always feel really raw, which I really appreciate in a book. I really gravitate towards character-driven stories, and if you're the same as me, Say You'll Remember Me is definitely for you. I think some people would say that it's an enemies to lovers, but it's more like a grumpy meet cute, and like she's really sassy and he's just like getting on with his job. He's a bit grumpy. The two main characters are Xavier, however you want to pronounce it, and Samantha. They've both got a lot going on in their lives separately. They also don't live anywhere near each other, so they're balancing a long distance relationship. They really want to make it work, whilst also balancing their own struggles that they're dealing with internally. It's such an incredible book. I literally read it, I think, in less than 12 hours, which is saying something for me. I cannot wait for people to experience this story. It just warms my heart. It's one of those stories where like it really warmed my heart. There are some deep topics that are covered. If you have any trigger warnings, I would definitely recommend looking them up before reading this book. But I do feel like all of the sensitive topics that were covered in this book were handled with a lot of love and care, which I always really appreciate. Moving on to the next book, if you are looking for a fun summer read, then you have to read This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This is my favourite book by Carly Fortune. She has another one coming out this year and it's got like the same sort of vibe, so I'm very much looking forward to reading that. It says, this summer they'll keep their promise. This summer they won't give in to temptation. This summer will be different. The book follows Lucy and Felix, and it basically comes to light that Lucy has been sleeping with this guy all summer. She's having such a good time. And it turns out that Felix is her best friend's brother. So it's best friend's brother, which is one of my favourite tropes. I love reading like a sibling romance. That isn't what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Like best friend's sibling, sibling's best friend, that sort of thing. Does that make sense? I realise that came out wrong, but this book does best friend's brother so well. Each year, Lucy and her best friend Bridget basically come to this Prince Edward Island, I think it's called. Yeah, Prince Edward Island, and they basically just go for like a summer escape. They end up doing that every single year, and despite Lucy and Felix knowing that like they shouldn't be together, they basically continue to hook up almost every year. So it's dual timeline as well, which I really loved. So you're seeing things like in the past and also in the present. It's such a light-hearted and fluffy book. I really loved it. If you love like hilarious rom-coms filled with so much tension and really funny dialogue, then I would definitely recommend this one. It's such a good one to get you into the summer spirit, even though we're kind of like nowhere near summer. But if you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, you want something that feels like warm and fluffy, then I definitely recommend this one. The next book that I want to talk about is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I actually had the honour and privilege of meeting Hannah last July at a book event that I went to. This story, I'm just so in love with Bowen Wynne. It has disability representation, so from the get-go you're like, yeah, I need it, I'm gonna devour it. Also, stay with me, it's unplanned pregnancy, but you have to listen to me, you have to keep listening. It's done so well. It's not done in like a suffocating, horrible, weird way. It's done so well. Bo and Wynne meet at Halloween party. They end up getting on really well. Then they sleep together. Then Wynne finds out that she's pregnant. It's basically a strangers to one night stand, to friends, to lovers. It's so good. I felt like the storyline in this book was really strong. The character development was really strong. The characters are so likable. You're literally going to fall in love with Beau. Like, he is the ideal book boyfriend. Like, I want him. I love my boyfriend, but like, if we're talking about book boyfriends, Beau is the one. It's such a powerful story as well because Hannah actually has a disability and Win has the same disability as her, so you really get that real and raw emotion that you can imagine Hannah felt. The story basically follows them both navigating this new life together because they're now going to have a baby together, but also navigating vulnerability and opening up to someone that is now like a new and kind of stable person in your life. If you're looking for a fun book that has some really strong tropes that are done really, really well and the writing is so good, then I definitely recommend reading Out on a Limb. And actually, I would recommend that you read all of Hannah's books. Her dialogue and writing style is something that I just love. I fell in love with it the first time I read her first book, which I think was called Next of Kin. I just absolutely fell in love. I adore her writing. I adore all of her books and her characters and her storylines. So I definitely recommend picking up her books if you haven't already. I don't even think that I'm mentally prepared to talk about the next book. If you know me, you probably know what this book is, but like, come on. Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Would it even be Mads talking about books in a video if she didn't include Binding 13? This is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically a college romance set in Ireland. At the moment, there's 5 books. We have the 6th book coming out, I think in April this year. The first 2 books follow Johnny and Shannon. Book 3 and 4 follow Joey and Aoife, and book 5 follows Gibbsy and Claire. Again, you've got to stay with me on this one because she's thick. She is like 800 pages, but in this case and for this series specifically, it really is that serious. Like, it is necessary. I feel like it's actually really hard to talk about these books without giving away everything that happens because they're such a powerful set of stories. Like, if you've read them, you'll know exactly what I mean. I also feel like you're just going to have to trust me. I read this entire book in less than 24 hours. That is how hooked I was. It is like 800 and something pages, but I always tell people that it reads like a 300-page book. You don't feel like it's dragging at any point. Up until I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, this is my favourite book. So this is my second favourite book of all time. It's a very deep and emotional story. 100% search up trigger warnings before you read this one because it does get very, very, very heavy. I do think that Chloe handles this with so much love and so much care. Like, so much of this book really does feel like a warm hug, even though kind of like the meaning and the story behind the book is absolutely devastating. In a nutshell, Shannon has been really severely bullied at her school, so she moves to Tommen College, where she then meets Johnny Kavanagh on her first day. They are polar opposites. This is definitely an opposites attract story. There's also some sport in it. I wouldn't even class this as a sports romance. I know that a lot of people do, but like, this book is so much more than it being a sports romance book. Like, Johnny plays rugby, but I don't feel like the book is about Johnny playing rugby. Like, it's so good, guys. You really have to trust me on it. But as I say, you 100% need to look up trigger warnings before you read it, especially if there are certain things that you know 100% you're going to get triggered by. I remember being so intimidated to read these books just because of how many pages they are, but honestly, I have not looked back. I have read this book, I think 3 times now. It's just absolutely incredible. I don't even have the words really to describe it. It's just like perfect. I would not change a single thing about this book, about this entire series, and I cannot wait for the rest of the books in the series to come out. Oh my goodness, I love this book. Technically, this is the 3rd book in a series, but they're all like interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read the other 2 books if you just want to jump into this one. But obviously, if you want like the full effect, you want the full story, you want to meet all of the characters, I would recommend reading from the 1st book. But now I'm going to be talking about Daydream by Hannah Grace, which is the 3rd book in the Maple Hill series. This is an advanced copy that I got from Simon & Schuster last year, and oh my goodness, when I received this PR package, I was not ready. I was so emotional because this was my most anticipated read of 2024. This is Hallie. This is Henry. Hallie is us. We are Hallie. She is everything that we are. She's a bookworm. She's a Swiftie. She's an introvert. Like, seriously, Hallie is us, and I love that. This was probably Hannah's fluffiest and softest book yet. There wasn't really a lot of spice, which I actually really, really loved, and it was really refreshing to read. This book just made me feel every single emotion. I felt like, again, again, it was very much character driven as opposed to plot driven. Like, I don't even feel like loads happened in this book, but it was just the fact that Hallie and Henry were together and they really brought out the best in each other. That just made me feel so, so good. Henry is such a gentleman. Oh my goodness. Like, Henry is the perfect book boyfriend. And once you read this book, you will understand. I think that a lot of people have said that this is their least favourite Hannah Grace book just because it's so different to her other two books. But I really, really love that. I'm not being funny. I don't need to see people like pining for each other 24/7. That isn't like what I go into a book hoping for. Like, this was perfect to me. I felt like Hallie and Henry's relationship happened so naturally and everything was really gradual. They didn't rush into anything. You really, really got to know the characters before they even entertained the idea of like being remotely romantic and sexual with each other, which I absolutely love. I actually think that Hallie is one of my favourite female book characters I've ever read about. When I was reading this book, there was just something so refreshing about it. I think because Hallie just felt so normal. She felt very real, very normal, and there were so many moments where I was just thinking like, you are so me, you are so every single other 20-year-old girl. Like, it just felt so lovely to read about a character like that. So this is definitely my favourite Hannah Grace book. Yeah, I would go and just pick this one up if you haven't read the series, but like, if you want to read the entire series, then obviously you read Icebreaker, Wildfire, Daydream. Oh, I am absolutely obsessed. I feel like I couldn't end this video any other way than talking about the absolute phenomenon that is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. Now, as you can probably tell from this video, I am a romance girly. I love a romance book. I love a fluffy rom-com. Give me like boy meets girl, I'm gonna devour it. Give me boy meets girl meets enemies to lovers meets dragon. Girl, you have no idea how obsessed I am with this entire series and this book. I remember when this came out in 2023 and everyone just jumped on this fourth wing trend, and I was like, I'm not a fantasy girl, like I'm a romance girl. There is no way that I'm going to devour this. Every single person and their nan's cat was telling me to read this book, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I have to do it. Like, everyone was telling me to read it. They were like, you are going to absolutely devour it. It's not just a fantasy book. There's so much more. There's tension and enemies to lovers, so much action. And I was like, fine, I'm going to do it. If everyone's telling me that I need to do it, then I'm going to do it. And holy crap, I have not looked back. This book is incredible. It's everything. It's essentially about a dragon war college. You meet Violet Sorrengail, you meet Xaden Ryerson. They are enemies when they first meet, and it's just, I don't want to spoil anything. Like, I can't really talk about this book, but if you like Divergent meets Hunger Games meets How to Train Your Dragon, you're going to devour this book. You're going to devour this entire series. As I am recording this, Onyx Storm, which is the third book in the series, comes out in approximately 2 days. It's coming out on Tuesday. Today is Sunday as I'm recording this. Girl, I'm not ready. Like, that's going to get me out of a reading slump. I can guarantee it. If you're a romance reader like me and you're looking at this series thinking there is no way that I'm going to like it, I actually haven't met anyone so far that has read this book and hasn't absolutely devoured it. So if you are that person, please leave your review down below. I would love to know like what you didn't connect to with it. I always find it so interesting how like so many people can love a book, but then for some people they just like won't connect with it. It's just like one of my favorite things about reading and the reading community. So let me know your opinions on Fourth Wing down below, but I absolutely loved it. I devoured it. One of my favorite books of all time. Also, if you like books that have maps, girl, this is the one for you because this map is stunning. Also, I think that if you're looking to enter the fantasy genre, but you don't want to jump in at the deep end with something that feels like really, really foreign to you, Fourth Wing is a really great one because it is the perfect combination of fantasy and romance. And also, it's not very difficult to follow. I always found that like when I read ACOTAR, I was like, who is this person? What are they doing? Why are there different courts? What is the night court? What is the summer court? Like, what is going on? This does not confuse you at all. It's set in the War College. All of the characters are really easy to remember. All of the names of places, the names of the dragons, the names of the characters, like whatever, everything is really, really easy to follow. So if you're looking to try a bit of fantasy after reading romance for a few years, this is the perfect book to help you like with that transition. So those are probably my favorite favourite books of all time, my favourite books that I have read. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to read a few books this year that add to that list. I honestly don't have a bad thing to say about any of the books that I just talked about. I rated them all 5 stars. Obviously, most of them were romance books. If you're a romance reader and you want like book recommendations and fun bookish videos, then I basically only post about books over on my TikTok, which is at It's Mad Soap. I'll leave a link below. If you want more short form lifestyle content, then definitely go and follow me over on Instagram. It's the same username as TikTok. I would love to hear what your favourite books are down below, if you have any book recommendations or any books that you think I need to add to this list. And also, if you have any opinions on the books that I've talked about in this video, definitely leave them down below, because I love to hear people's opinions on the books that I love and also the books that I don't like. But these ones for me, I absolutely loved. So if you're looking to get into reading, get out of a reading slump, these are the ones that I would recommend to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. I post a video every single Sunday at 5 p.m. I will see you very soon with a brand new one. Bye for now.